Okay, let's dive in. What if your daily routine wasn't just, well, routine? What if every ordinary interaction, every quiet moment held the potential for a different kind of win, a deeper one? Imagine if life wasn't really about winning at all, but about growing, becoming, more authentically you.
It's a huge shift in perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
A really profound one. And that's exactly the idea we're digging into today. It comes from this really unique guide found in Wendell's diary.
Wendell's diary.
Yeah?
Right. Part of an official platform for something called emergent philosophy.
Exactly. And emergent philosophy, just quickly, it's the school of thought, basically. It believes meaning and purpose aren't just there. They're not fixed. They actually emerge, from what we do, how we interact with the world day by day.
Okay, got it. So it emerges. And this guide you mentioned, it's called The Game of the Republic.
That's the one. And it's not your typical game manual, not at all. The whole point isn't competition. It's not about racking up points. It's specifically designed for growth, for helping you, the player, become, as it says, more you.
Right. So our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack that,
Yeah.
to get into the core ideas of the Game of the Republic, see how it flips the script on success, on growth, on how we connect with each other, and maybe find like a shortcut to deeper meaning in just everyday stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We'll explore how playing this game, even just thinking about it, can really change how you see things, how you act. Might lead to some surprising, aha moments.
And let's
about the philosophy, sure, but maybe even more about yourself.
Okay, let's start with that core principle then, the big one. Not to win, but to grow. That immediately bumps up against how we usually think about games, even life, right? So what does it really mean? No points, no finish line.
Well, it's kind of radical, actually, because it takes away that constant need for outside approval, for validation. Most games, they focus on the end result, the score, who won. The Game of the Republic, though, it turns that energy inward. It says, hey, real success, that's not about beating someone else. It's about taking on these quests, small things, big things that help you become more yourself. It's an invitation, really. Focus inside, not outside.
That makes a lot of sense. Liberating, almost. So this game, where does it happen? The source says the Republic isn't a physical place, no buildings or rules. It says it's made of choices. And it lives inside you and around you, wherever people choose to care, reflect, and help each other grow. How does something, well, so intangible, become real because we treat it as real? That part's fascinating.
It is, isn't it? It taps into something. Well, sociologists might call it social construction. It's real because we act like it's real. We put meaning into it with our choices, our beliefs. If enough of us decide to, operate from that place of care, of mutual growth, that shared intention, it creates this feeling, this reality. It might be invisible, sure, but it's tangible in its effects. It sort of builds on itself, a self-fulfilling thing focused on connection and getting better together.
Okay. And who's in this Republic? Who are the players?
Yeah.
The guide mentions many voices helped shape it. People like the Bard President Wendell, an AI sage, a philosopher named Rainbow, even a dog, Sophia.
Yeah, I love that mix. It includes Wendell, this AI called Sage, Rainbow the philosopher, and Sophia the dog. It shows wisdom can pop up anywhere. But here's the really crucial part, I think. It stresses that you, the listener, you're not just a player following the rules. You are a creator of the Republic.
A creator. Wow. How does that change things? What power does that give us?
Well, it's huge. It shifts you from just being someone who follows instructions to someone who's actually building the reality, an architect. And by pointing out all these different contributors, the poet, the AI, the dog, it's saying, look, good ideas and creativity, they come from everywhere. So for you to be a creator means your choices, your actions, they literally weave the fabric of this republic. You're not just on a path, you're making it.
Yeah, that's a really empowering thought. So if we're creators, how do we start? How do you join this game? What's the initiation?
That's the beautiful part. The guide is super clear. No test, no paperwork, no secret handshake, none of that. You're in right now. The moment you decide to treat life with care and imagination, that's it. It starts right where you are, which means it's open to absolutely everyone, instantly. No hoops to jump through. It's like a soft invitation, just as the source says, very welcoming.
Okay, simple enough to start then. But if there's no winning, what does success look like? How do you know if you're doing well without scores or trophies?
Success is measured differently. It's in what the guide calls these soft moments. Little things, really. Choosing honesty when it's tough, being kind, really truly listening to someone, and leveling up. It's not about getting points. It's described as an internal expansion, growing with truth, with softness, with strength you didn't know you had. And importantly, mistakes aren't failures, they're expected. Part of the game, actually. Valued because you learn from them. It's all about your inner landscape, not what you achieve outwardly.
That's such a different way of looking at progress. A huge departure from how competitive things usually are. It sounds like it's pushing for a kind of quiet revolution, doesn't it? Where you stop the race, the comparison, trying to be the best, and instead you just focus on being true. What does a revolution like that actually achieve?
Well, the main thing it achieves is freedom, liberation, really. When
Yeah.
you genuinely stop racing against everyone else, you suddenly have the space, the energy to just be yourself, fully, authentically. And that's where the guide says you win in the only way that matters, by living in line with your core values. It's a quiet act, maybe, but it's powerful, kind of defying a world that always wants you to measure up externally.
A quiet defiance. I like that. It sounds like finding this hidden layer of meaning in just normal life. The guide talks about hidden magic, saying quests happen everywhere, even like at the kitchen sink or in line at the grocery store. The secret is just how you see it. How do we actually do that? How do we apply that idea?
Well, this is where that practical technique comes in. Renaming the day. It's basically a mental tool, cognitive reframing, you could call it. You deliberately give your ordinary tasks new, more, epic names, and that transforms them. Chores become rituals, quests. So, brushing your teeth, that's the morning armor ritual. Taking out the trash, the purging of the village waste. Walking the dog, the Twilight Patrol with Sophia the Brave. You're using your imagination to inject purpose and, well, a bit of fun into the routine.
The morning armor ritual. I love that. It immediately changes the feel of it, doesn't it? And the source has more examples, right? Like the grocery expedition, the haircut ceremony, even the great sock sword.
Exactly. The mirror trial is another one. It's about finding that grand story hidden in the everyday. And that's where the empowerment really kicks in, because you don't need permission to name your quest. You don't need an audience. Nobody else has to know. This whole process, this mythic framing, it wakes up your imagination. It turns routine into ritual. It adds a layer of intention, honoring even the small stuff.
Okay, so if these are quests, how do we track how we're doing? If success is internal, to just growth is kind of invisible. How does leveling up actually feel if it's quieter, like a shift inside you?
Yeah, it's definitely not like getting a notification on a screen. It's more subtle, internal shifts. The guide describes it as moments like taking a deep breath after something hard, or feeling a smile after telling the truth, even just to yourself. Or maybe finding a moment of peace where there used to be worry, those kinds of things. It lists concrete signs, too. Forgiving someone, noticing you're about to say something unkind and pausing, setting a boundary, saying no when you need to, making space for others. But crucially, it says no leaderboards here, because everyone's path is totally different. Your journey is yours. You can't compare it.
That reminds me of this idea in the guide, the secret skill tree. But it's not a menu, it grows from your heart. And every kind choice, every lesson learned from a mistake, it unlocks a new branch. What kind of skills are these? How do they actually show up?
They're the deep human skills, really. Things like courage, softness, laughter, finding stillness, inner strength, maybe. The idea is they don't announce themselves. They just appear. They show up when you need them most. It's like your character developing quietly in the background, cultivated by how you choose to live, and then boom, that strength or softness is there when a challenge hits.
Okay, and speaking of skills, one really interesting concept is kindness XP, experience points for kindness. It's described as invisible, but also the strongest kind of power. How do we get this XP? What does that power do?
Right, kindness XP, you earn it through specific actions, like helping someone without being asked, or saying something gentle to yourself. Self-kindness counts. Letting someone else go first. Saying sorry when you mean it. Small acts, mostly. But the guide claims this invisible power, it makes you stronger, softer, braver, and wiser. It flips the script on power, suggesting real strength comes from empathy, from compassion, not from dominance.
That's a really different take on power.
Yeah.
But what about when it's really hard to be kind, especially towards someone who maybe doesn't seem to deserve it? Does the guide talk about that?
It does, yeah. And it makes a really important distinction. It says, kindness doesn't mean letting people hurt you. That's crucial. But it means choosing not to hurt them back. So it's about your choice, your action, not necessarily about the other person's behavior. And it also folds in things like boundaries, rest, and saying no as part of kindness to yourself included. So it's definitely not about being walked over. It's about conscious, compassionate choices while still protecting yourself. The conclusion is really strong. Kindness isn't a weakness. It's the core of our strength.
Okay, that's a really key point. Kindness with boundaries connects it to self-respect. Now, what about playing with others? The guide says life is a co-op game. How does interacting with people, friends, family, even strangers help you level up faster, deeper, and more meaningfully?
Well, when you engage with others, you just naturally run into things you wouldn't on your own. Different viewpoints, unexpected challenges, moments that demand empathy or collaboration. Those interactions become what the guide calls co-op quests. It gives examples like the listening quest, really hearing someone out, the shared courage challenge, tackling something scary together, the kindness relay, passing good deeds along, the forgiveness circle, things you do with others. And it's in those shared experiences, that friction and connection, that growth can often happen much more quickly or deeply.
Makes sense. But what if the people around you, what if they aren't playing? They don't get it, or they're just not interested. Do you just stop?
No, not at all. The advice is pretty simple. Keep playing anyway. Just keep doing your thing. The idea is that your own presence, your intention, just by living this way, can have a quiet influence. It might inspire others, not by trying to convince them, but just by being an example. Sometimes one person playing can subtly change the energy of a whole situation.
And there's also friendship XP, earned by, what was it? Being honest and gentle at the same time. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, that's a high-level skill. Also things like giving without keeping score or standing up for someone. And it even mentions building a party, finding a small group of people who are also trying to play this way, to support each other, remind each other.
Like a little support group for the game. I like that.
Exactly. But the guide is realistic too. It knows sometimes, even with support, you'll feel lost. It says that's okay, it's part of the game. Which leads to this other really important skill, the power of the pause. Just stopping, resting, listening to your heart, gathering your energy.
Okay, the power of the pause. When should we use it? And how do we get back into the game afterwards?
You pause whenever you feel confused, overwhelmed, maybe hurt, or just stuck, unsure what the next right step is, and getting back gently. No big push needed. It suggests simple things. Take a deep breath, look for something beautiful around you, maybe reach out to connect with someone safe. Small steps back in.
So even when you're paused, when you feel lost or still, you're actually gaining something.
Precisely. You're not losing progress, you're accumulating different kinds of XP. Rest XP, reflection XP, healing XP. And the guide really emphasizes these are real and they matter. You're still in the Republic. There's this lovely line, a quiet promise. You don't lose your citizenship by being sad or silent. You belong here. You're never kicked out, even when you're struggling.
That's really reassuring. Okay, as we sort of wrap up this deep dive, let's talk about the long game, the legacy. The guide suggests that as you play, you're leaving clues for other people. How does that work? Every time you complete a quest, level up, or even make a thoughtful mistake, you create a clue for someone else. What are these clues?
They're not like literal notes left under rocks, usually. They're more like the ripples of your actions, the echoes of your journey. It's the wisdom you gained, the lessons you learned, maybe a moment of kindness someone witnessed or didn't witness but felt. They become like little breadcrumbs on the path for people who come after you, maybe guiding them, even if they have no idea who you are.
And are there ways to consciously leave these clues? The guides seem to have some specific ideas.
Yeah, it gives concrete examples. Things like write down something you learned. Simple, but powerful. Tell someone younger a story. Share your experience. Ask a brave question in a group. Be kind when no one else is. That definitely leaves a mark. Or even start a ritual that holds meaning.
So ways to make your internal growth a little bit visible or shareable.
Exactly. There are ways to externalize what you're learning and living. Not huge, dramatic gestures, but small, intentional acts that can resonate outwards. Sharing your authentic self, basically.
But what if nobody sees? What if you do these things and crickets? Did it still count? Does it still matter?
The guide says yes, absolutely. It reassures us. Even if no one sees in that moment, the clues land somewhere, somehow, because the Republic remembers. It holds them in its living memory, which sounds a bit mystical, but I think it means your actions become part of the collective energy, the shared understanding. They influence the vibe, the fabric of this invisible Republic. You contribute to a legacy, whether you get credit or not.
Wow. Okay. The Republic remembers. That leads perfectly into what it calls the final secret. The game isn't separate from you. It never was. And that eventually you don't need the book anymore because you carry it now. You are the new scroll. You are the new myth. What's the big takeaway from that?
I think the ultimate realization there is that it's not about applying some external philosophy to your life. It's that the philosophy has become part of you. It's integrated. You're not just playing a game someone else designed. You are the game now. Your life, your choices, your moments of kindness or struggle or quiet reflection. That's the Republic in action. You're writing your own myth, living your own quest.
So you, listening right now, you're already a living quest. You're a spark in someone else's dark. You are the game and the guide and the growing light. The journey doesn't end here. It's always unfolding.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive into the game of the Republic, it's really about offering a different frame for life. Not a competition, but this ongoing journey. Growing, connecting, making meaning. Hopefully you walk away with this new lens, this new way to look at your own life, seeing the potential for the mythic in the mundane.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If the Republic truly lives in your choices, and every single moment holds the potential for a quest you get to design, what story are you telling with your very next breath? And who else might stumble upon and be inspired by the clues you're leaving behind right now?